Right, so I'm back with another video, and in this video I wanted to explain how I closed a $32,000 deal. Now, most of the reason of why I want to film this video is not really the money that I made, but it's how crazy the deal was and how much effort it took me to close the deal. It didn't have to take me this much effort, but it did, and I'm okay with it because I learned a lot. It's a crazy deal, and at the end of the deal, even after I explain it to you guys think I might be lying, and that's how crazy it is. But trust me, I'm not, and it's a very fun story to listen to. So let's get into it and let's not waste any time. It all started in July 2024 when me and my partner were cold calling leads by ourselves. We were literally hand dialing leads 24/7. We were calling them from our own phones. We didn't have a dialer, we didn't have a CRM. We were just straight up old school, just cold calling people. Now, this whole day, this specific day, we were just calling leads, and most of the leads were just telling us, no, I don't want to sell. So when I came to talk to this lead and he answered the phone and I called and I asked him, hey, do you want to sell? He said yes. But because I was hearing no all the time and specifically this day, I was like, okay, you don't want to sell, that's fine. And then he stopped me before me hanging up and he was like, no, I do want to sell. I genuinely do want to sell. I have a problem I'm dealing with. I have to sell this property. I was like, okay, awesome. Let's get into it. Let me qualify you. Let me ask you a couple of questions and all these kind of things. So this guy, this seller, he wanted to sell his property because he had his ex-wife living in there. She wasn't paying any rent. They're not married anymore. He has another house and he has that other one that his ex-wife is living in, and he's not making any money. He's paying property tax. He's paying everything for it. The property taxes he's paying, the utilities he's paying, everything he's literally paying. So he's like, I'm sick of it. I need to sell it. I need to figure out how I can do it. Maybe we can file an eviction, and then from there, once it's vacant, you guys would get it. And we're like, okay, that's a good idea. It became a follow-up lead. Like it became a lead where I have to follow up with for a while. Like, hey, are you ready to file the eviction? How do you want to go about it? Maybe try to email her, maybe, because he didn't even have her number. It was insane. He didn't even have her number. He was emailing her, and she took a couple of days to answer. So that's why it was kind of like a long follow-up kind of lead. Like I sent her an email and then she would take a couple of days to answer, and it just kept getting back and forth. So he sent her an email, hey, I need you to leave. I have these people that want to buy my property. She was like, oh, I can't. I don't have another place. And it was too much, right? Like from month to month, we kept following up. When I went to Lebanon last summer, actually, not a few summers ago, last summer, I didn't have my US number. So I had to call my partner, hey, call him and follow up with him. Like you follow up with him, tell him like you work with me and that you're calling on my behalf, and just ask if there's any updates. He called him and there was no updates, same thing, but he was kind of like getting into it, like, okay, like I genuinely do want to sell. Like he started speaking about like earnest money deposit. An earnest money deposit is something when, let's say I want to buy a property, and to show the seller that I'm serious, I would put up a specific amount of money, let's say $10,000, which is non-refundable, just to show them that I'm serious about the deal. So he started talking that he wants this specific amount for us to put in escrow once we sign the deal and once we agree on the price. Like, okay, no problem, we can talk about it, maybe we can negotiate. It really depends. Let's first see what the tenant wants to do, and then based on that we would make a decision. So we didn't really give him a yes or no decision. Came back to the States. I told him, like, hey, I called him, we can't keep doing this. We have to figure out a solution. I want to buy it, you need to sell it, and I'm pretty sure you need to sell it as soon as possible. Look, at the end of the day, you have to create urgency. You can't assume that people know that they have to do something. That's your job as a salesperson, to create the urgency. Don't lie to them, create urgency. I was being honest. I was like, hey, if you keep waiting, here's what's going to happen. First of all, you're going to deal with more problems. That's the most important thing, because I know someone at your age, he wants to relax. He was in his 70s or something. You don't want to deal with any bullshit. Second thing is you're going to have to pay utilities every single month. You're losing money. Third thing is the property taxes. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to pay. He's like, actually, you're right. Let's team up and let's do something. I was like, okay, awesome. Let's file an eviction. Let's start by doing that. And we were like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's file an eviction. And actually, before that, I forgot to say something. He tried to offer her some money, but she refused. Okay, she said, no, I don't want this money. I want more. She was asking for a crazy amount, like $20,000 or something. So he said, no way. Let's file an eviction. I told him, okay, I'm ready. Let's file an eviction. Now, because I'm not the owner of the property, I couldn't do anything. He had to do everything. He had to file the eviction because he was the owner and he had all the rights to the property. I told him, let's file an eviction. And then he told me, okay, I have a couple of stuff I'm dealing with. Maybe call me back on Monday. And then you can maybe explain to me how to do it, where to go. And that's where I started doing research of how to file an eviction. Who do I need to call? I have all the numbers, all the steps, everything lined up. And I called him on Monday and he answered. I asked him, hey, Steven, you ready to do it? He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm at the hospital. I have an operation that I need to do. I was like, oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. What happened? He's like, oh, his hip hurts or whatever. He needs to do a surgery. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. I really hope everything gets better. He's like, I need a week to recover or whatever. And then it's like, okay, like hopefully nothing crazy happens to this guy. I need the deal. I've been battling hard to get this deal. I called him a week later and he's like, I still need another week. I was like, okay, no problem. Next week, it was Monday. I remember I called my friend and I was very I don't know, excited or something. I forgot why I was excited. Maybe I closed the deal that day and maybe I closed my first deal that day. I forgot. A friend of mine, I called him, he's been looking at my journey and he's like, you're doing good. I told him I'm very good at sales. I'm very good at what I do. I'm a crazy guy. If I want something, I'm going to completely get it. Even if I'm calling a seller and the seller dies, I don't care. I'm call his wife and close the deal with his wife. And I didn't when I said that, I didn't specify the specific guy, the seller that I'm dealing with. I just said it in general. I would have said it anyways. So I said that, and on the same day, I had the follow-up call with that seller. It's crazy. It's about to get crazy right now, okay? I called the guy, no answer. Called and called and called and called. No answer. It's like, you know what? Let me wait a couple of days. Maybe this guy's tired. He doesn't want to deal with any of this stuff. I was like, okay. 3-4 days later, same thing. After that, 5 days later, I was like, I'm fed up. I'm going to blow this guy's phone up until he answers. I did. And then a lady answered. I was like, hi, I'm looking for, his name was Steven. I was like, hi, I'm looking for Steven. Is he here? Me and him were talking about it. He's like, oh yeah, he told me. I was like, okay, well, where is he? Steven's dead. The seller literally died. Pretty much predicted that's going to happen. Not predicted, but spoken to existence in some way. I mean, of course, God bless his soul. And I hope he rests in peace and everything like that. He was a very nice guy. But it's crazy. A couple of days ago, I told my friend, if that happens, I'll still get the deal done. And funny enough, it did happen. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, wow. I told his wife, I'm sorry for your loss. And he was a great guy. We were in touch with him for a couple of months. All that small talk was done. And I asked her, do you want to sell the property? Do you still want to sell it? She's like, yes, now it's even a better time. I have to sell it. I have a lot of debt that he left me that I needed to pay on his behalf and all these kind of things. I was like, great, let's do it. So everything I thought about was pretty much happening. And what happened here was we didn't want to file an eviction because I closed the deal and I learned something that you don't have to have the property vacant for you to close on it or for you to have it under contract. So I was like, let me put it under contract. Let me secure the deal. And then once it's under contract, I can work on it and maybe have the tenant leave the property. And that was my strategy. I called her, I asked her. Here's the thing. The after repair value of the property is $480,000. That's how much it would sell for once it's fully fixed up. It looks amazing. Everything is new roof, new floors, granite countertops and all these kind of things. That's how much it would sell for, $480,000. And it needed about 70 to 80 grand to work, take that's $400,000. And let's say the investor wants to make $60K, that would put us at about 340 and then fees and stuff like that, 320, which is, I thought, okay, I could sell it for 320, or something around that neighborhood. And then I called her, I was like, hey, how much do you think the property is worth? If you speak first, you genuinely lose. And it's true. A lot of people say it, but they don't live it. And I've lived it. If I would have said that price that I just told you guys earlier, 310, 320, I would have lost a lot of money. I told her, how much do you think it's worth? She's like, I don't know. I mean, it needs a lot of work and you guys have to deal with it. Maybe 240. I was like, okay, done. We hit the jackpot. 240. I can make 70 to 80 G's on this deal. Done. I locked it up on that same phone call, got under contract, and signed the deal, sent it to escrow. We opened escrow on that deal. I sent my earnest money deposit. I was ready to rock and roll and start hunting for buyers. So I called this buyer that I know, and the reason I called him because this guy looked young. He looked a little bit older than me, but he looked young and he had the Lambo. So I saw this as my opportunity to get closer to that guy, okay? Because I looked at him, he has something that I want, which is a nice car, and he looks like he's making good money. He's in real estate. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I thought that was a smart move for me, and he was interested, and then we did agree on a price, which is $312. And to be honest, I had other contract at $250 and not $240. I just remembered. So I had a spread of 62, $32,000. That's how much I was going to make. That's completely net. There's no one that I need to pay. There's no expenses, nothing. That amount specifically goes to my pocket. I was excited, 62K, let's do it. I expected a hefty fee, but not that big, but signed the contract with the buyer. Now I have two contracts. I have a contract with the seller, and then I have a contract with the buyer that I assigned. The first contract that I had with the seller, I assigned all my rights from this contract to now the buyer. So the buyer has the title, not officially, but under the contract. That's what an assignment agreement is. Now everything pretty much is done. Now all we have to do is just get into the details, get this crazy lady out of the property, and close the deal. We had to find a way of how we were able to get this lady out of the property. We thought about many ways when we filed an eviction. I didn't want to file an eviction for some reason. I don't know why. I just thought that would bring a lot of problems because the seller didn't even know I assigned the deal. I just didn't want to do it. I was like, maybe we can deal with it, ourselves. I had the buyer speak to the lady. We were able to get the tenant's phone number. I had the buyer speak to her and tell her like, hey, how long do you think it's going to take you for you to leave? And she said a date, which never happened. But we were like, okay, that could be like something we could work with, even that, like if you want to extend it 30, 40, 50, 60 days, that's fine with us as long as you can leave. He offered her $5,000. All we had to do from now was wait 60 days, 60 days has passed, okay? After she said 60 days, we called her, no answer, and all this bullshit, and she's not answering, and she's like, I'm at work, and I can't talk, and the worst thing that could have happened is happening. We can't close a deal if the tenant is not out of the property. That was what was contingent in the deal. If the property is not vacant, the buyer can't close on it, and that's what I had with the seller as well. That if she's not out, I can't close on the property. I cannot. It's too much risk for me. She wasn't answering. She wanted more money. She was texting us and no calls. I even had the buyer send someone to the door so he can talk to her. She wasn't answering. We tried to offer her $10,000, no answer. We went to the old guy's wife, the seller that I'm talking to. She's like, these buyers are blowing up my phone. That's the specific amount that I want. I want you to pay it off the sales price. I don't want to take 20K out of your pocket. The seller called me. She's like, this lady's crazy. I cannot do that. This is my money. I don't know why she feels entitled. She's not even paying me rent or anything like that. So I have to figure out a solution. I told her, would you at least entertain that, or a little bit of that money, maybe not 20K, maybe 10K. Would you entertain giving her that money? She's like, no, she's my husband's ex-wife. I don't want to do that. I was like, okay, now it's kind of like the problem started escalating more than I expected. We had to figure out a solution. I mean, it's under contract that at the end of the day, a deal still could be canceled. And I didn't want that to happen because it's been a very hard deal for me and I had to get the job done. There was a lot of back and forth. Me and the buyer, me and the seller, me and the tenant and the buyer, the seller and the tenant, the seller and the... it was insane. It was just a fucking, I don't know, a shit show just going on. We had to figure out a solution. I was like, what I can do is I could actually offer her some money, see if she accepts. And if she did accept, I would lower the price that I have with the buyer. So, for example, I have it at $312 with the buyer. The buyer is going to buy it off at $312. Let's say I offer her $20,000. I would reduce my price from $312 to $292,000. And from that 20K spread, the buyer would take that spread and maybe use his own cash and give it to her. And then once he flips the property, would kind of make up for that 20K. You know what I mean? So that's what I thought about doing. I asked her, would you take 20K? And she said yes. Finally, she said yes. She agreed. We're like, okay, we're going to close the deal. Let's do it. And then usually when something like that happens, which is called in wholesaling, it's called cash for keys. When you would give the tenant cash and she would give you the keys for the property because she would leave, so she would give you the keys. We offered her the cash, but here's what happened. So once we offer her the money, the way it works is if it's that big of an amount, if it's $20,000, for example, what we would do is, we would give her, for example, like 5K up front and then 20K once she leaves, because she's not going to leave right away. She needs to find a place. She needs to take her stuff out. She needs to do all these things. So that was what we were thinking. And we offered, was like, okay, we can do 20K and we give you 5K now, 15K when you leave. She did not accept it. She was like, there's no way I could do that. I need the money up front so I can pay for Airbnb or whatever. I want to pay for the whole amount up front. We're like, at least can we pay for it just so we know where our money is going? She didn't accept. She was giving us a hard time. You know, like I said, it was just constantly headache after like problem after problem. And then I had to go back with the partner because I wasn't paying for it. They were paying for it. So I had to make sure if they're okay with paying her this much money. So I came back to the to the buyers and I told them, do you guys want to do this? Like, do you guys want to give her 15K up front when title is not even yours? And they said no. So this is how I went from 62K to 30K. So they wanted to close the deal while she was in it, give her the 15K and then wait another 2 weeks and then give her the rest of the 5K. They didn't want to give her the 15K while the title was still under the seller's name, because if they did, something happened with the tenant, we can't get the 15K back. So we had to close on it just for the buyers to be safe. And for them to close on it, to pay her the 15K, they wanted to reduce their risk as much as possible. So it wasn't just a matter of me reducing my fee by $20,000. I had to give them more of a reduction. I had to maybe reduce it by another $20,000, which would put me at $22,000. So I have a 40K loss now. You know, it was insane. I didn't want to do that. I told them there's no way we could do that. And they were like, we've gone too far. We have to. You offered her the money. I made the mistake, offered her this money, but I didn't know she wanted to get this whole thing up front. So after we all agreed to this, before we closed the deal, I did something crazy, you know, because I was about to make $62,000 from this deal, and now I'm making $22,000. So what I did is, which is crazy, at 10 p.m. at night, once I heard this news that they did want to close the deal while the tenant was in there so they can give her the money and reduce their risk, and they needed a little bit of extra equity to make up for the risk that they're taking, what did I do? I called the seller at 11 p.m. at night. 11 p.m. at night. And it wasn't Friday or anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's not even partying. She's like in her 70s or something. 11 p.m. at night, I call her, hey, we had an issue with our lender, whatever. I made up some sort of story. I need $10,000 reduction, please. You know, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. At 11 p.m., she accepted. I did not just have her accept the price. I did not just have her accept the price reduction. I had her sign the addendum right then and there. She had to go out of her bed, open her computer, me send her the addendum via DocuSign, me explain to her how to sign it on DocuSign, and it took me about an hour. At 12 a.m. I had it done. I woke up the next morning, I sent it to escrow, and just for you guys to know, I had the $10,000 reduction, okay? So now I'm making $32,000, and finally, we had this thing done, and then once I sent the addendum, we had everything lined up. We closed on the deal. I got $32,000. The tenant got the $15,000, and we had to wait a few weeks for her to get the rest of the money, and then done, you know? That's how I made my money. That's how I made my $32,000. It was a crazy deal. A lot of crazy, you know, things that happened in this deal. But let me tell you something. If you really want to make this money, you have to be crazy. The way I think about it, I genuinely don't give a fuck about losing. I don't care. I completely don't care. I'm ready to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm ready to risk everything I have to make something happen. Now, of course, I have to make a little bit of a calculated risk, but I have this mindset that I'm just ready to risk it. I go head first. I'm crazy. And specifically now with my age, I'm 21 years old. I want to make crazy amounts of money. I don't want to have a fear-based mindset. I don't know what it's called, but I don't want to live out of fear. Or I want fear, but I want this fear to fuel me, to push me to make things work and to avoid what I'm afraid of. Pretty much. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. So me like trusting myself so much that I'm going to call this at 11 p.m. at night shows you how crazy I am that I wanted to get this deal done. And I got it done. What was the worst case that would have happened? She would have, you know, not answered and called me the next day. But I wanted to assure myself I was crazy. I didn't want to wait till the next day. I wanted to get it done then and there, just for me to sleep, knowing that I added $10,000 to myself. And genuinely, you have to really want something so bad for you to go this far. It just can't happen. Oh, I'm just cruising around. No, you genuinely have to be hungry. You have to just be insane in your mind. I have never met a successful person that is not a little bit crazy, you know? And I genuinely believe I'm crazy. I'm completely crazy. I mean, the fact that I called this out at 11 p.m. at night, you know, to have the price reduced, it's just crazy. But, you know, I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about myself. And like I said, in the first video that I posted and I deleted, and I really do want to post it back again, you know, but I had to like kind of edit it. I have to edit it, actually. I talk a lot about persistence. I genuinely live by persistence in everything. Even if I'm reading a book and I feel, okay, I'm tired, I want to do something else, I can't allow this thing to cross my mind and me not doing anything. I can't allow something to cross my mind and say, no, I can't do this, I want to do it later. I just can't. I can't. I fight it. I genuinely fight it. I fight until I read everything I have to read. And this is just an example of how my mindset works, you know, with everything. Even with this deal. Like, I was like, I can't have this thing happen. Even in the middle of the deal, once I had a feeling, or once I started thinking, oh, what if this and that happened, I wanted to file a memorandum of sale on the property. But then I was like, I don't want to add more headache to myself. Maybe they can sue me, whatever. A memorandum means I would cloud title, and I have the right to do that because she signed a contract saying she's okay if I cloud title. Cloud title means if I have this contract with them and another buyer tries to do it, or they decide to cancel the contract, they cannot unless they have my word. So I can be like yes or no, or I can be like yes if you guys pay me this much. So I was just determined to get this thing done. But at the end of the day, I got it done. I made this much money. To me, it's not a lot of money, but it's the biggest deal so far, and I'm just grateful but not satisfied. And hopefully we're gonna make bigger deals. Not just hopefully, I know we are. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and hopefully it's gonna be a video about a bigger deal. We'll see.